All right, this week we're going to be taking a look at my first automatic watch, and it's basically the same as everybody else's first automatic watch. I've got the Seiko 5 SNK803, so actually a little bit of a twist there, not the 809 with the black dial that everybody usually gets, but I got the 803 with the cream dial. Check it out. Some of you might be wondering why I'm doing this. Most of you probably know exactly why I'm doing this. This is my review of the Seiko 5 SNK803. So this is the cream dial version of this style watch. And it is an automatic watch. This is my first automatic watch. I've really been enjoying it. Some questions that people have, this watch is often criticized for being maybe a little bit on the small side, and I have slightly larger wrists. But for me, that's kind of one of the sort of exciting things about just getting into watch collecting is I don't have to really just go with what everybody says. I can try out a smaller watch size and see how it fits on my wrist and see if I like it. And so far, yeah, I think it looks fine. I have like about a 7.5 inch wrist. This is, I think, a 37 millimeter dial, so it's the smallest watch that I own. But it looks, I think it looks okay. We're going to go ahead and give this guy a review. The reason I'm shaking this is because it's an automatic watch, which means that it's mechanically powered, so there's no battery in here. But this particular one does not have hand winding, so the only way to wind the watch or get it to start working after it's run out of power is to shake it. And that's how this watch sort of charges itself. Not charges, there's no battery in it, but this is how it winds. It's how it stores its energy. Is as you wear the watch throughout the day, the idea is that you move your wrist a lot, you move your hand a lot, and that spins a little balance wheel inside the watch, which winds it. And we'll see some close-ups of that as we get into the review. But so far, I've really been enjoying this. It's a very simple watch. You know, you look at it at first glance, and especially if you look at pictures of it on the website, on the sales website. When I was researching this watch and looking at it, it didn't look like anything special to me. And I would click through it, but everybody raved about what a wonderful watch it was and how great it was. It is a lot cooler in person, and hopefully I can show some videos that do a little bit more justice than just the pictures online give it. But I don't know. It's again, it's a very simple watch. It's very easy to read. The dial is very cleverly laid out. It comes with a day-date complication. It is an automatic mechanical watch. But I'm used to quartz watches. Again, this is the first mechanical watch that I've owned. And you look at it and you just start to, sort of just sucks you in. At first glance, it's very unassuming. But sort of the more you stare at it, you see how smoothly the second hand is sweeping, and you just notice there's something different about it. And then this one has the display case back on the back, so you can actually see the inner workings of it. And there's just something special about that. There's something special about this being like a mechanical piece of machinery that is just so complex and yet so precise in what it does. And I think that's why so many people fall in love with mechanical watches and build their collections around them. This being more of a budget watch collection that I'm going for, I'm probably not going to be able to add a lot of mechanical pieces, but I think every collection should have at least one. And for now, this is the one that I got. Maybe I'll try and get another one someday. But we'll see how that goes. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the review and take a look at it. As you can see, looking at the measurements here, the case is a 37 millimeter diameter case, which is a little bit on the small side. A lot of people criticize it for that. 11 millimeters thick though, which means it's pretty thin and wears really comfortably. 30-meter water resistance is good for splashes, light, rain or hand washing, things like that. You don't have to worry about it, but definitely wouldn't go swimming. Day-date complication is great, and but really it's that Seiko automatic movement that is the major selling point of this watch. It's a really nice movement and definitely differentiates it from quartz watches, especially in this price range. So the band is 18 millimeter canvas band, but the price is really great, $50 to $80 on Amazon. Usually you can find it in that area. So for an automatic watch, it's hard to beat, and yeah, it puts it, competing with a lot of entry-level quartz watches as well. So this is definitely a candidate for your first watch, I would think. Taking a quick look at the watch, you can see the case here is kind of a matte gray bead blasted finish. The whole style of the watch is sort of an old-fashioned military or pilot style watch. It's kind of the aesthetic that it's going for. It has the crown at 4 o'clock, which makes it very comfortable to wear. And then on the back, you've got that window in looking into it with that display case back, which is great because, again, one of the main reasons you're buying this is for the automatic movement. And if this is your first automatic watch, you definitely want to be able to look in there and see all the inner workings of it and really be able to appreciate and understand better how this thing is working and ticking away on your wrist. Yeah, so to set the time on it, you can pull the crown out to the 3rd position, so all the way out, and that will allow you to set the time. You'll notice that when you do so, the second hand does not stop, so that's one of the drawbacks of this particular movement. It doesn't have hacking, which is where the second hand stops, so that you can actually sync it to the second with another clock or time. This one will keep going. The other drawback to this particular movement is it doesn't have hand winding, so in order to wind the watch after it's stopped, you have to kind of shake it. To set the date, you push the crown into the 2nd position. So if you pull it all the way out, you just push in a little bit, but not all the way back in. And then you'll rotate it one direction to set the date, and then the opposite direction to set the day. The day is bilingual. I believe it's English and Spanish, so you just pick the language that you're going to use, and it will stick with that. As the watch rotates around between midnight and around 2 o'clock, it'll skip really fast over the language that you're not using and get into the right language. The strap here, you can see it's got a little leather reinforcing on the holes, but other than that, it's completely canvas. It's fairly comfortable, but I don't really like the way it looks that much. I think a leather band would look much better. And the other drawback is that this canvas one seems to pick up a lot of like lint and fabric from clothes and things. So I'm kind of always cleaning it off. The clasp is signed with the Seiko logo or Seiko name. The hardware is all matching the case finish with that kind of matte gray look, which is nice. So it's not a terrible strap, but it's I think it would look a lot classier with the leather one. Again, you can see back into the back of the case. The crystal is a hardened mineral crystal, which is supposed to make it pretty scratch resistant. I haven't had it for too long, but haven't had any issues with that so far. Reading the watch is actually pretty simple once you get the hang of it. So again, it's kind of an old pilot style dial where you have the minutes on the outer track where you would normally have the hours, and that works well because the hour hand is longer, or the minute hand is longer, so it'll hit that minute track to read the minutes, whereas the hour hand is shorter, so it hits right on that inner track where the hours are marked inside in the smaller circle on the dial. So you can see pretty quickly that this is reading 7:07, and once you learn how to read it, it's actually a lot easier, I think, to read than a lot of other watch faces. So a lot of clarity there, which again was a big thing for pilots and people in the field. Let's go ahead and give it a try on the wrist. Again, I have about a 7.5-inch wrist, which I was reading a lot of reviews online. They're saying that for my size wrist, this watch was not a good one to go with because it was too small. So I was a little leery about buying it. This is the smallest watch that I have in my collection, but I have enjoyed having watches of different sizes. I usually tend to wear like a 42 or between a 40 and 42 millimeter watch. I really like that size. But for this one with a 37 millimeter, I think it wears pretty well. I kind of enjoy having the option to go with a smaller size watch, and it's kind of maybe more of an older style, a little old fashioned. I think it looks, maybe a little bit more on the elegant side. But yeah, from a lot of angles and things, I think I can definitely go with a 37 millimeter case like this, and it doesn't look too out of place. No one's mentioned anything about it, and I kind of think it looks good, but that's really a matter of personal preference. You kind of have the option to go with what you feel like. If you have a smaller wrist, this is, I think, a really great option for you because it looks like it's getting harder to find watches in this size. So it's a great watch for guys with smaller wrists, but if you have a normal or larger size wrist, I think it works okay as well. Let's go ahead and get a loom shot now and check that out. That was another nice thing about it. Seiko is known for having really nice loom, and I was pretty impressed with the loom at first. Like when I first turned the light off, it was incredibly bright, and I was really happy with it. But as you can see, even in this, as the video goes on, even after just a minute or so, the loom starts to wear off significantly, and after maybe an hour or two, it's almost completely gone. So this is a watch that I've woken up in the middle of the night wearing and tried to tell the time and haven't been able to because the loom doesn't last throughout the night. And I have other watches that the loom does last throughout the night, so I know it's possible. So that's one of the drawbacks there. That said, it does have those little loom pips all around all of the hour markers, so you can read the time in the dark as long as the loom is lit. And you've even got the loom on the second hand on that little paddle on the back of it, so it's kind of cool at night. You look at it and you can see the second hand still smoothly moving around the watch, and you can still read the time pretty well. So yeah, let's go ahead and wrap up taking a look at this. Is this kind of a watch that you want to get maybe for your first watch or for your first automatic watch to add to your collection? In that case, I think it's a strong watch to consider. It has a lot of advantages over a quartz watch, and if this is like your first watch, it's kind of cool to start off with an automatic there, and it really differentiates you from what probably most of your friends and most other people are going to be wearing. So the benefits of the automatic watch is with this one, the movement, it gains its power from you moving your hand, so you basically never have to change the battery as long as you're wearing it. Whereas with a quartz watch, you got to do that every couple years. But you do have to be wearing it almost all the time. You can leave it off your wrist for maybe a day or two, but after that, it'll lose its power, and you'll have to pick it up the next time. You have to pick it up and shake it and then reset the time by hand. So I rotate out my watches, and so I usually have to do that. Whenever I put this one on, I have to set the day, date, and time all over again. But it's not too big of an issue to do. The other thing about it, being an automatic watch, I think there's kind of this cool factor to it where, this is, there's no battery at all inside it. It's just this piece of machinery that's powered by a spring that's being wound by the motion of your wrist. So it's a really intricate piece of machinery, and one of the most complicated things that that human beings made prior to the invention of computers and the more electronic interfaces that we've come up with now. So it's kind of a piece of history there that you can kind of wear around with you, and it definitely is kind of a cool thing to it. And that's, practically speaking, a quartz has a lot of benefits over an automatic watch, but there's just something a little bit romantic about having this thing with all these gears and springs and moving parts, and all of it working together so perfectly and precisely to track time and to keep something so precise and accurate. So there's something definitely cool about that. But yeah, it's definitely a cool watch to consider, and we'll go ahead and with that, we'll wrap up the review and take it back. All right, so that's been my review of the Seiko SNK803. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you got a couple of extra minutes, if you're still hanging around at this point of the review, why don't you go ahead and leave a comment and below and let me know what your first mechanical watch was, if you own a mechanical watch, and if you don't, let me know if there's any that you're thinking, or if you would ever consider buying a mechanical watch. Either way, thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys subscribe, like the video, and yeah, we'll see you next week.